Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ayu Enda Lestari, you can call me Ayu. I am a student of Mercubuana University majoring in accounting. In this video, I will explain about budgeting in Indonesia. Okay, let's go straight to the video. Happy watching! Introductions. Indonesia has historically maintained a responsible and conservative fiscal policy, focused on sustaining a rigid fiscal discipline. In the years prior to the Asian financial crisis, the budget had a moderate surplus, 1 until 3% of GDP, and public debt was relatively low, 25% of GDP. The country enjoyed a high rate of economic growth, and thus expanding public research and development policies were at the forefront. The Asian financial crisis affected Indonesia's economy profoundly. The economy shrank by over 13% of GDP in 1998. Government debt rose dramatically in 1997 and 1998 and reached almost 100% of GDP in 1999, reflecting the cost of providing liquidity and eventually to takeover of the banking system. The financial crisis triggered political upheaval in Indonesia with the resignation of the long-serving president. The country experienced a series of successive governments as new democratic constitutional arrangements were being finalized. Today, the parliament is freely elected and has some great powers, not least in the area of budgeting. The president, who was professionally appointed by parliament, became directly elected. Great power was also devolved from the center to regional government with the Big Bang decentralization program. However, fiscal policy continued on a responsible and conservative track and act as an anchor for the world economy. In fact, prudent budget policy is generally seen as having been instrumental in the economic recovery. Even during the height of the fiscal crisis, deficits were modest, reaching a height of 2.5% of GDP. This situation was the result of major expenditure cuts, largely in public investment and other development expenditure, to offset lower levels of revenue and rising interest expenditure to finance the growing level of debt. Budget formulations. This section outlines the budget formulation process in Indonesia. It is divided into 4 subsections. The first outlines the fundamental change implemented following the 1997-1998 economic and political crisis. The second subsection describes distinctive characteristics of the Indonesian budget process. The third highlights each step in the annual budget formulation process, and the fourth subsection is concludes. First, reinventing budgeting. Following the 1997-1998 economic and political crisis, the Indonesian's budgeting system was transformed following the 1997-1998 economic and political crisis. These transformations involved a new legal framework for budgeting, an unveiled and more comprehensive budget, massive fiscal decentralization, and the empowerment of local government. Second, distinctive characteristic of the Indonesian budget process. The subsections review 5 distinctive characteristics of the Indonesian budget formulation systems. A fiscal rule, underspending of budget appropriation, national planning functions, special role of full in the budget, and rigidity in the budget. Third, annual budget formulation cycle. The annual budget formulation cycle can be divided into 5 stages. Establishing the level of research available for the next budget, establishing priorities for new programs, pre-budget discussion with the parliament, finalization of the budget proposal, preparing detailed budget implementation guidance. For conclusions, the economic and political crisis of 1997-1998 triggered truly transformative change to budgeting in Indonesia. Change included creating a modern legal framework for budgeting, unifying the budget and making it more comprehensive by trimming of budget activity, and rapidly introducing a massive decentralization program. While some aspects of this reform are not complete, the scale of the undertaking cannot be overestimated. Fiscal discipline was maintained throughout this period, and it should also be noted that Indonesia experienced major shocks at the time, including the catastrophic tsunami, which make the achievement all the more noteworthy. Compared to practice in OECD countries, the biggest distinctions in Indonesia is the existence of a national planning functions alongside budgeting and the corresponding institutional arrangement with the Ministry of Finance and Bappenas both playing a key role. They do, however, appear to work well together, and the division of roles appears to be clear. The reform to unify the structure of the plan and the budget will further harmonize the two and remove inefficiencies. The role of Parliament. Following the transitions to democracy in Indonesia, Parliament has taken on its role in the budget process with great zeal. This move is to be commended, as the budget is the single most important policy document of government, and its scrutiny and amendment where necessary by Parliament is imperative for a well-functioning democracy. Indonesia's parliament stands out when compared to the most OECD member country parliament on several counts. First, the Indonesian parliament is involved in more details and at more occasions throughout the budget process than the parliament of any OECD country. While the pre-budget phase is exemplary, it will be more beneficial in Parliament where to focus on budget policy in more aggregate and strategic terms. The government could assist in this regard by providing appropriate high-level budget documentations at the point rather than the very detailed work plans, for example. As a result, Parliament could focus more on intersectoral allocations of funding and thus take on the greater role in setting overall budget policy. Parliament's emphasis on detail also inhibits the successful implementation of medium-term expenditure framework and performance budgeting. Second, the practice of undertaking political negotiation on the economic assumptions and revenue forecasts that underlie the budget is at odds with OECD practice. In OECD countries, the usual procedure is to obtain such assumptions and forecasts on a purely technical and independent basis. The aim is to make them so professional that they are not subject to political debate. Sectoral commissions could be made more explicit. Again, the involvement of the sectoral commissions in the Indonesian budget process is exemplary by OECD standards. If the budget committee were to focus more on aggregates and strategic priorities, it could be in a position to issue budget ceilings through the sectoral commissions. This change could be part of the introduction of a formal multi-step budget approval process in Parliament to foster fiscal discipline. As noted in Box 13 of Sweden, the role of the budget committee could evolve into a fiscal policeman, making to the role of the Ministry of Finance versus spending ministries. The fact that the Indonesian Budget Committee is a committee of committees representing the sectoral commissions may complicate this proposed new role. Fourth, much of the power of the sectoral commissions stems from informal arrangement, such as their frequent contacts with their respective ministries and agencies. For example, the role of the sectoral commissions in the budget implementation ingredients is completely informal. Fifth, the final decisions of Parliament are by consensus achieved through informal negotiations and discussions among the various parties or factions rather than majority voting. These situations reflect Indonesian political traditions. It does, however, hamper transparency as the means of reaching consensus takes place outside of public view. Finally, the capacity of Parliament is quite limited in exercising its important budget-related functions. Due to the high turnover of members of Parliament, an emphasis of providing training and analytical support for them is critical. The absence of creating an independent, non-partisan, professional parliamentary budget office to provide high-quality support is especially attractive.